So guys, there is only a little bit over 1 month left into 2020, and in this year, even during this crazy pandemic, there's been a lot of cameras that have released with a lot of great specs offered within those cameras. But guys, even with 2020 coming into a close with all of these great cameras released and heading into 2021, there still is one camera that I strongly believe holds value in this camera world, and that is going to be the Panasonic Lumix GH5. I strongly believe the GH5 is still one of the best cameras to own and to operate in the visual world, and in this video I'm going to be breaking down the reasons on why I believe the GH5 is still one of the best cameras to own even heading into 2021. So guys, jumping right into it, let's cover the first feature that makes the GH5 one of the best cameras to own, and that of course is going to be the IBIS, or the in-body image stabilization. Now guys, the GH5 to me does have the best in-body image stabilization when it comes to using this camera. There's been a lot of scenarios where I actually have been able to shoot handheld and still get a stabilized shot, as opposed to having to use a Ronin S, a Ronin M, a Ronin, or some type of stabilizer or gimbal that would create the same stabilized shot. So there's been a lot of times in projects where I've been able to get a certain shot that maybe even a stabilizer or a gimbal wouldn't have fit into, that I've been able to use the GH5 and get the same style shot with the same stabilization. Moving right on to the next feature, let's go ahead and cover the customization that the GH5 does offer. Now guys, one of the great features of the GH5, like I discussed, is the customization settings of this camera. The GH5 actually does have 5 function features on the actual back of the camera that you can specify a specific setting to have within those one of the 5 functions. So that's one of the great things about the GH5. And on top of not only having the 5 functions located on the back of the camera, it actually has a dial on top that allows you to also have 3 customization settings that you can set within the menu of your GH5. So guys, for example, the first customization that I have set up is for 4K all-in 400 megabytes all-in option. The second option is set up for the 60 frames, and then the third option is set up for the 120 frames. Now the customization options on the GH5 is a major plus and something personally that I think makes the GH5 stand out, especially seeing that this camera was released over 3 years ago, and that DSLR lineup that they offered back then, you know, the GH5 was one of the only few that not only offered in-body image stabilization, but also offered this in-depth amount of customization within the actual camera itself. Now guys, next up with the GH5 that we're going to discuss is the color profiles that it offers, and more specifically the Cine D and Vlog options. Now I usually record in the Cine D color profile when I'm planning on shooting in the 8-bit slow motion option, which is usually either 60 frames or higher when I'm shooting in the 8-bit option. And then what I'll do is I'll in post take the Cine D and convert it to a Vlog profile using the Alex LUT bundle package that I actually did purchase, and I've actually made a video discussing how to use that workflow in post-production, and you can click the link in the description I'll have below that actually shows that video that I did discussing the Alex LUT and how to take the Cine D color profile, convert it to the Vlog profile, and then have it go to a Rec 709 profile. Now guys, another great reason on why you would want to use the Cine D color profile as opposed to the Vlog option is if, you know, you're shooting content that needs to be delivered quickly and you don't have the time to sit there and color correct and grade Vlog footage. So what it does is the Cine D profile is giving you a picture profile that already has a base look or a base, you know, color correction and grade to it. So you can use that if you don't have time to edit the flat Vlog footage that the GH5 does offer. Having owned this camera for several years, guys, and using this on a majority of the projects that I've shot in the last several years, having the Vlog 10-bit 422 color option is one of the best profiles that I've dealt with, and it's also been able to give me the best grading and color correction options and giving me the best image quality when it comes to producing a final output for my projects. So guys, reason number 4 on why the GH5 is still a great camera to own and even going into 2021 is a 3-parter, and that's going to be that it has no recording limit, it has great battery usage, and one of the major things that it has or doesn't have that all these cameras have had problems with that have came out this year is it has no overheating issues. Now, as I've said, even with all of these cameras that have been released this year, when it comes to this 3-parter, each camera that's been released this year has had a problem when it comes to either having a recording limit, the battery usage being horrible, or obviously the overheating issue. You know, some of these cameras may have had 2 or all 3 of these problems. Some of these cameras may have had 1 of these problems, but the fact that the GH5 is an over 3-year-old camera and is allowing you to not only have no recording limit, a great battery usage, and no overheating issues, while all of these new cameras are experiencing 1, 2, or all 3 of these problems, is another reason why owning the GH5 going into 2021 is a great buy. It actually amazes me, guys, that a over 3-year-old camera is outperforming some of these new cameras that have been released this year when it comes to these three features within the actual camera, which is the no recording limit, the great battery usage, and no overheating. You would think that a 3-year-plus old camera wouldn't be able to outperform the cameras that have been released this year in this department, but it happens. So this is another reason why the GH5 is such a great camera to own heading into 2021. Now guys, reason number 5 is going to be the actual camera size of the GH5 itself. Now I have found when it comes to shooting with smaller compact cameras such as the GH5 as opposed to a bigger bulkier camera like the 1DX Mark II will make you actually want to go out and shoot more content, and even depending on what kind of scenario you're in, it doesn't really matter, because when you have a smaller compact camera like the GH5, you'll be able to pull that out way easier than pulling out a heavier and bulkier 1DX Mark II. Now guys, reason number 6 is going to be the assist tools that the GH5 does offer within the camera. Now guys, the GH5 offers some of the most helpful assist tools out of the DSLR brand, and on top of that, it also gets you prepared for dealing with higher end cinema cameras, because these higher end cinema cameras are actually going to have the same type of assist tools that the GH5 does offer, such as the zebras, the waveforms, the histograms, and a couple other assist tools that are actually found within the GH5. You can also find these in the higher end cinema cameras. Now, functions such as the peaking guide, the histogram, and being able to set your actual zebra and making sure that it doesn't get overexposed is actually some of the actual helpful assist tools within the GH5, as well as other assist tools that the actual GH5 does offer. It's not just those three, but it's actually a lot of other helpful tools within the actual camera itself. Now guys, this is one of the main reasons why I do love and still use the GH5 to this day, is the actual helpful assist tools, and being able to learn and use this on this camera has been able to help me dealing with higher end cinema cameras such as the Red and the Alexa. The same kind of tools that the GH5 does offer, the higher end cinema cameras already have. So being able to learn that curve on this lower end DSLR made it way easier to transition into using higher end cinema cameras. Now guys, reason number 7 is going to be the many recording options and settings that the GH5 does offer. Now this camera not only allows you to record in 5K anamorphic mode, 4K, 1080, but it also allows you to record in slow motion all the way up to 180 frames per second. Now, any kind of project that I've ever shot with, I've never gone as high as 180 frames per second to get slow motion. The highest I've gone is the 120 frames per second. That is super slow motion on this GH5 mixed in with the in-body image stabilization. But having this camera, basically any kind of need that you would have for your project shooting wise, the GH5 does cover it. Also, the 5K anamorphic mode is amazing quality. Even the 4K all-in 400 megabytes all-in option offers the great quality and content that you would need to get for your project. Now guys, reason number 8 is actually a sleeper within the GH5 itself, and that is going to be that this camera does actually produce great quality photos, even though that this is a video camera that can happen to actually just take photos. Now guys, I don't know anybody who's actually purchased or used this camera specifically for photos in mind. However, that doesn't mean that this camera can produce great photo quality. Now the GH5 actually comes in at 20.3 megapixels micro four third camera image size, so that actually is a very good megapixel rate for a GH5 and for a video camera that offers photo capabilities and its main purpose is not for photos. So again, 20.3 megapixels on a micro four thirds camera is a great option, again, because this is not a photo camera, this is a video camera with photo capabilities. So this is going to be reason number 8 on why the actual GH5 itself is a great camera to go into for 2021 and the rest of 2020. Now guys, the last and final reason on why the GH5 is a great camera to still own and to buy going into 2021, with all of these features and all of the capabilities and all of the pluses that we've talked about with the GH5, you would think this kind of camera would be $2,000 plus, but it's not. This camera, and the reason why that the GH5 is still a great camera to own and buy not only for the rest of 2020 but 2021, is going to be the actual price of the camera. Now again, I described a whole bunch of stuff within this camera that DSLRs that just came out this year are offering and just now offering, that are going between $2,000 to $4,000, sometimes even a little bit higher than that $4,000 mark range. So you would think a GH5 would be in that price range as well, right? Wrong. The GH5 currently is sitting at $1,300 brand new. To own this camera, it would only cost $1,300. That to me is a steal for all of the capabilities and features and pluses that this camera does offer, even outperforming certain DSLRs that have released this year that are twice if not triple the actual cost of the GH5 itself. Again, the Panasonic Lumix GH5 is a 3+ year old camera, and it only is $1,300, and it has all of these features and capabilities, again, that is outperforming some of these DSLRs that have released this year, that is not only either double, but sometimes even triple the amount of the GH5 itself. So this is the last and final reason, and one of the actual major reasons on why owning and operating the GH5 is a must-have in 2020, but also going into 2021 as well. Now guys, the GH5 for the last several years has been my go-to workhorse for projects that don't require me using a higher end cinema camera such as the Red or the Arri Alexa. Again, I can't stress how much this camera has helped my projects and my visuals go to the next level. This camera is a powerful workhorse that will cover any kind of needs you need for your actual next project and your next film. So this is something that I can't stress enough and recommend enough for the rest of 2020 and going into 2021 that I would actually own, purchase, and invest in when it comes to taking your visuals to the next level. Let me know down in the comments if you actually own the GH5 and what is some of the best features that you love about your camera. And if you haven't used this camera, what is some of the features that I did discuss that you actually would look forward to using within this camera itself? Let me know down in the comments below. So guys, if you're new to this channel, my name's Joe Moore and I'm a content creator and also a photographer. On this channel, it's focused around making tutorials and other helpful videos, whether that be reviews, how-tos, or any other type of other helpful content that will take your visuals to the next level. I also do make a lot of random and fun content as well, such as vlogs. If you guys did find this video helpful, do me a favor and go ahead and like, comment, and share this video, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and make sure to hit the notification bell so you can actually stay up to date with all the content that is releasing on this channel. Be safe guys, and I'll see you next video.